Hey, welcome back you guys. So these are my 5 rules to not go broke doing small drywall jobs. Small drywall jobs do not have a lot of profit in them, and it can be hard to actually make any money doing them. But they're important to do because in order to keep the big customers, sometimes you have to do the little jobs for them too. Not only that, taking on the small patch jobs often leads to bigger customers anyways. So it's just one of those things you have to do, but you don't want to be hemorrhaging money the whole time. So rule number 1 is don't do small jobs for square foot prices. Drywall is often priced at, like, let's just make up a number. Let's say it's $2 a square foot to hang, supply, finish a sheet of drywall. So a sheet of drywall is 32 square feet. So that means in order for you to supply that sheet and do all the work, you're going to get $64 minus materials. So it doesn't take long to figure out that that math does not add up. For small jobs, it really just comes down to having experience, being able to look at it and be like, okay, it's going to be this many trips to the job. How much do I expect to make per trip? And it's definitely a juggling act with that one because you price it too high, you don't get any calls. You price it too low and you're working for free. But it's really important to understand that square foot prices and going rates are for large jobs with tons of square footage. And it's also important to understand that most people working for square foot prices aren't actually making very much money. Piece workers are typically ground down to the bone. It's a very competitive market and they're just not making a lot of money doing it. You actually probably could make better money doing well-priced patch jobs. Okay, rule number 2 is factor in your travel time. The thing that's kind of tough is when you show up to a job and let's say you got some 5-minute mud and you're a pro at patching and you can bang that thing out from a hole in the wall to finish coated in less than an hour, and the customer's like, you were only here for an hour. Why is your bill like $400? Let's say that includes coming back to sand it. There's 2 things going on here. One is they're not paying for that 1 hour. They're paying for your years and years of experience that led you to be able to do that in 1 hour. And the second thing they're paying you for is your time to get there. It's really important to understand that somebody has to pay for your time. Let's say I have a whole bunch of large jobs booked up back to back to back. I could be on a job anywhere from 8 to 12 hours making great money. And in order to do that patch job, I have to leave the well-paying bigger jobs and go and put in a couple hours work at most. So it's really important to make sure when you're estimating for those jobs that you're estimating for the time that you take away from the other job plus a little bit extra to make it worth your while. So factor in your downtime, factor in your drive time, and factor in the work, plus a little bit extra just to sweeten the deal. And if the customer isn't willing to pay for all that, like if they see your price and they're like, that's way too high for you to come and do this little job, you have 2 options. You can either educate them on how much time it actually takes away from your better paying jobs, or you can just say no. You know, there's a saying, you don't lose money on jobs you don't take. Never be desperate, right? You don't have to do those jobs. I know at the beginning I said that it's good to do them. It is good to do them to keep your regular customers happy and to find new customers. But if that customer is not willing to pay you what you're worth to do that job, then it's better to not have that customer. Okay, rule number 3, this seems obvious, but it's so easy to do. Don't give your materials away for free. It's so easy to not charge for like a half a bucket of mud, but when you are making up that estimate and you know that you're gonna have to buy a box of mud or a bucket of mud just to get the job done, but it's only gonna take this much of it, you better be adding at least that whole bucket onto the bill. Now, nobody likes seeing a whole bucket of mud charged to their job when you came to do a patch. So that's why I really recommend figuring out fixed price work for small jobs, and then you just add it into the price, right? You're just like, okay, I know that I need some corner beads, tape, mud, all this stuff. So my materials is gonna be about $100. I'm gonna come in over if I charge $100 for materials. And you might not actually wanna have the labor and materials broken down like that because then people start asking questions. You just give them, it costs X to do this patch. For small jobs, never, ever, ever allow your customer to know exactly how much all of the materials cost. It's not their business. It's the customer's job to say yes or no to your price. That's it. So remember those half bags of mud, those half buckets of mud, that, little pouch full of screws, all of that stuff adds up over time. Blades, sealers, all kinds of things. Like, it really adds up over time. And there's one thing I've learned in construction: if you're not overcharging a little, you're undercharging. I have never found medium. Medium does not exist in the world of construction. You are either making a little bit extra or you are not making enough. So know that. You're winning or losing when it comes to bidding your jobs. It's that simple. All right, rule number 4, and this applies to new customers especially: always price it for the worst prep job imaginable. You just have to think, okay, I'm gonna come in and there's gonna be backing missing, there's gonna be screws where there shouldn't be, there's gonna be jagged edges of drywall that all have to get cleaned up. Like, just imagine that the person you're going into work for knows nothing and you have to do everything and price accordingly. And the only time I would change that is when you start to develop a working relationship with a customer, whether it's a homeowner or a contractor. It would generally be a contractor if it's repeat business. But once you start to know how they operate, then you can whittle it down a little more and be like, oh, this person does great prep, so I don't have to estimate so much for that this time. And then you can be a little more competitive. But in the beginning, you're gonna lose your shirt thinking that other people know how to prep for drywall. Just assume that they don't. Okay, rule number 5, don't forget setup and disposal. I don't know how many times this has slipped my mind where I'm just like, okay, there's a patch, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna do it. But then you show up and you're like, oh, the floor's not protected. All your furniture is still here. There's always stuff you have to come in and get ready. A job site is, I know this sounds like prep like the last one, but it's a little bit different. This is more like, especially for patch jobs, you're usually coming into finished spaces and there's going to be extra work that you have to do to get that place ready to make a big dusty mess. And on top of that, disposal. I don't know how many times I've estimated a job and for some reason I'm like, oh, and now I have to go and dispose of the drywall, which is like an extra 2 to 3 hours of my day, and then another $20 to $50. It's so easy to hemorrhage all of your profit out of your jobs by forgetting these 2 simple things: the setup and disposal. Factor it in. Okay, and I have a bonus rule, rule number 6, and this is not necessarily about how to earn more pricing your drywall jobs. This one is just simply to help you have happy customers and get more work. Be tidy. Customers dread calling the drywaller in. They're always like, oh, they're the messiest guy. There's gonna be dust everywhere. Learn how to do proper site protection. Make sure their floors are protected. Make sure you have a good vacuum. Make sure you know not to have like a draft going through the room. When you're doing drywall work in a finished space, don't open the window. The dust isn't gonna go out the window. The dust is gonna go from the window you opened under a door to a window that's open on the other side of the house, and it's gonna blow dust all through the house. And they're gonna be like, man, those drywallers are really messy. I'm totally pissed off with them because I just had to spend the whole day cleaning my house after they showed up to do a patch. So if you really wanna impress customers, learn how to be a tidy drywaller. It makes a big difference. You wanna price bigger drywall jobs, you wanna do it by the square foot. Best of luck to you. Even bigger jobs, I don't price by the square foot. When I look at a job, I just go, okay, how long is this gonna take? Let's say I have a 30 sheet job. I know that I can hang 30 sheets in a day if it's a really simple job. And I know that it can take more than a day to hang 10 sheets if none of the prep is done, if it's all angles, if everything is out of square. And the same goes for the taping. I know that I can easily tape a 30 to 50 sheet job in a day quite easily, and then each stage is successively just one day if it's a simple job. But if it's a very complicated job with a lot of corner bead, it's really cut up, there's tons of patching on painted walls, even like a 20 sheet job can take up to a couple coats a day if it's a nasty enough job. So it really comes down to experience, the bigger ones too. As for being an actual piece worker for a drywall contractor, fill your boots. I know a lot of you guys are. It's a hard job. I've never worked for the going rate and I've never done piecework. If I'm totally honest, I don't think I would earn enough doing it. It would be a rude awakening to see just how fast I have to work and how much I have to not care to actually make money doing the going rate prices. So anyways, you guys have been asking for a long time about a how to price drywall. I'm not Mr. Drywall Contractor. I've done small jobs and renovations for my entire career, and that's how I make a decent living doing it. It's still not enough to earn a living in Vancouver though. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing awesome. I hope this is helpful, and until the next one.